Earth, the third planet from the Sun, the Garden of Eden located in our solar system. The Sun's light is needed for transferring precious energy onto life on Earth. Energy is needed by all living organisms. It is necessary for work, reproduction, and bodily functions that maintain homeostasis. Without energy, life would cease to exist. The process used to obtain energy is called
Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis.
On a serious note, organisms such as plants, algae, and bacteria are able to use this process.
Fun fact: photo means light, synthesis means putting together. Photosynthesis is the process of converting light energy into usable chemical energy that is stored in bonds of sugar. In order for the plants to make their own food, they need the light's energy, carbon dioxide, and water to make the sugar needed for living. The chemical equation is light energy plus 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O, which equals C6H12O6 plus O2. This process occurs in the chlorophyll, which is inside the chloroplast. Photosynthesis primarily takes place in the leaves of the plant. There are specific pores that let CO2 in and oxygen out. The small pores are called stomata. Chloroplast includes both inner and outer membranes that contain the stroma and the thylakoids, which are stacked in grana. Fun fact: the chlorophyll has a green tint because the green light is being reflected off, and the plant only uses the other color rays. Stage 1 of photosynthesis is the light-dependent reaction. This occurs under the light, hence light-dependent. The thylakoid membrane converts the light energy into usable chemical energy. Chlorophyll and other pigments like beta-carotene can absorb different colored light and pass it in the center of the chlorophyll, called the porphyrin ring, which is fused together with carbon and nitrogen, so photosynthesis can occur. The light-dependent reaction stores or forms chemical energy called ATP. This chemical is made up of 3 phosphate groups, the nucleotide adenine and ribose sugar. Stage 2, the light-independent reaction or the dark reaction. This stage takes place in the stroma inside the chloroplast. This also converts CO2 into sugar. In order for this stage to work, the products of the light-dependent reactions, ATP and NADPH, are used for the reaction to work. The reaction goes through a cycle called the Calvin cycle. This is when ATP and CO2 are converted into sugar. The first resultant of photosynthesis is a 3-carbon compound called glyceraldehydes 3-phosphate. When 2 of these combine, it will immediately turn into glucose. This is how photosynthesis actually works.
Enzymes are needed for catalysts which make the process of photosynthesis a more efficient one. The enzymes necessary for photosynthesis are found in the stroma. The leaves of C4 plants are structured differently than those of C3 plants, so the enzymes used are different as well. The enzyme rubisco in C3 plants makes CO2 fixed to the RUBP to create a 6-carbon compound. In C4 plants, CO2 is fixed by a pepco, an enzyme that is more efficient than rubisco.
Fun fact: prokaryotic cells can make up to 38 ATP molecules, while eukaryotic cells can make up to 36 ATP molecules. This is because in eukaryotic cells, the NADH molecules that are produced in glycolysis have to pass through the mitochondria, which costs 2 ATP molecules. Cellular respiration is a catabolic pathway for producing ATP. This occurs both in eukaryotic cells and in prokaryotic cells. The chemical equation for this is glucose plus oxygen yields carbon dioxide, water, and energy, ATP. There are 3 main stages in cellular respiration. The first is glycolysis. Glycolysis splits 6 carbon sugars into 2 3-carbon sugars, 2 molecules of ATP, 2 molecules of puric acid, and 2 high-energy electron-carrying molecules, which is NADH. The second stage of cellular respiration is the citric acid cycle, also known as the Krebs cycle. This starts after the two molecules of 3-carbon sugars are converted to different compound called acetyl coenzyme. Several compounds capable of storing high-energy electrons are produced with 2 ATP molecules. NAD and FAD are reduced and carry the electrons to the next stage. The Krebs cycle only occurs when oxygen is present, although it does not use it directly. The third stage of cellular respiration is the electron transport chain. This chain is a series of electron carriers in the membrane of the mitochondria in eukaryotic cells. Through a series of reactions, the electrons are passed to oxygen. Gradient is formed and eventually becomes ATP. So what is the difference between cellular respiration and fermentation? For one, cellular respiration occurs inside of the cell, whereas fermentation happens outside of the cell. Fermentation is an anaerobic process that produces ATP. So basically, it produces ATP without the presence of oxygen, as opposed to cellular respiration that uses oxygen. Another difference is that the process of glycolysis in fermentation doesn't contain oxygen, while glycolysis in cellular respiration does contain oxygen. The only similarity between them is that they both go through that process of glycolysis.
Overall, photosynthesis and cellular respiration are two processes that go hand in hand in the conversion of energy on this planet.
They play a huge part of life. Our life, your life, that bird's life, your mom's life.
So think twice and be thankful for the air you breathe. So here is a short song that will help you remember to appreciate plants and what they give us.
Sighing softly to the river comes the loving breeze, setting nature all a-quiver, rustling through the trees. Through the trees.